Welcome to Soccer Talk, a podcast about soccer, mostly in Iowa, presented by Kick It Forward. Kick It Forward is a positive disruptor to the Iowa soccer community.
Thanks to our sponsors, Scott Insurance Services and Michael Keener, Attorney at Law. You need legal help, you need insurance help, those are the two to contact.
That's right. Welcome to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I guess I'm here and Blake is there. We are good buddies. We're also co-hosts of Soccer Talk. Welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hey, good morning, Ben. Take two. This is. We're still kinks out and learning how to actually save some of our audio files that we're recording.
It's very true.
Ben,
Are you there?
long delay there, Ben. I am here. Are you?
You had a weird delay as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, there we go. People, our listeners now can see what we have to go through, and we're talking about. This is our second take. Luckily, Ben, we recorded our actual interview. That was 40-some minutes long with Luke Frieberg.
Yes, correct. So weird sometimes having to do this over the airwaves, not in person. I would like to give a little shout out to your attire. So I have to go to an appointment here soon. So I'm just, dressed for work, but you're rocking the old Tofuti shirt. Shout out to Seth Moterson. And then of course your Central Cities hat, one of our favorite sponsors, of course.
Of course. Support our supporters, right?
Right on. Well, so hopefully the delay doesn't kind of ruin the intro and we can just get through it. But today we are, going back to our sort of Legends interview series, trying to find reasons to talk to people because with nothing going on, there aren't a lot of current events to prompt our conversations, are there, Blake?
No, you couldn't say it. I couldn't say it any better.
Fair enough. So Luke Frieberg is one of your boys specifically. I mean, he's a good buddy of mine as well, but Drake alumni, Menace standout, part of the national championship team as you were as well. I don't know. It seemed like you really enjoyed the Frieberg conversation.
I did. It was fun. And somebody for a long period of time, but you still kind of still learn things about him when you sit down and talk to him for nearly an hour. So it was good. I enjoyed it. I think we'd be remiss not to mention his club state championship days with the Urbandale Revolution, and then kind of being one of the pioneers of the Norwalk Warriors side over there on the down south.
Yeah, right on. And Luke's just a very thoughtful guy overall. And so I think it was just really nice to have a chat with him, hear kind of about his journey and where he's at now and sort of his reflections on the whole thing. But yeah, so why don't we get to it? A nice animated chat with our buddy Luke Frieberg. Gladiators, are you ready?
Ready.
All right, Luke Frieberg, welcome to the pod. What's up, man? How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm pretty pumped to have you too. You look good with the headphones on. Let me tell you.
I feel like I'm either getting ready to play some serious video games or getting ready to serve you as the drive-through attendant.
Have you done either of those things?
Video games, but not really the online era. I was a little bit more old school SNES 64 before we progressed to modern day.
Yeah, I mean, old school, definitely dorky, possibly because you just went. Did you say
was
SNES?
Oh yeah, Super Nintendo. That was the thing.
All right, so Blake always asks the same first question, and I assume you've listened to every single episode.
I've listened to a couple. My most recent was when you had the coaches on for their preseason outlook.
Well, Blake,
I think you guys
are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening, guys. So. Luke, we've got 57 episodes, so it's kind of disheartening.
Well, I did want to have a conversation with you guys. since you guys originally did season one is stuck at the top of the podcast playlist. And everything being unseasoned after that, it takes me a while to search to get to the more modern content. So just ahead, I mean, yes, I understand your critique of me not listening to all of them, but if I was to provide some constructive feedback.
So we are actively, that got changed. I went in and changed that about a week ago, and we are going back and forth with
Apple fighting that.
Steve and his crew at Apple. Yeah.
Freeberg,
We are going back and forth.
I have to tell you, Frieberg, this is why I love you so much. Like, just like no punches pulled, like just straight out of the gate. Like, let me just talk about your production quality real quick.
I was just, if I'm going to get thrown under the bus for not listening to all of the content, make it a little easier for me to consume. And if you would, I use Stitcher, so I really had to go out of my way to seek this content out.
Okay,
so if you guys could find the next platform after Spotify, that'd be awesome too.
He's definitely a younger in Stitcher then. So Frieberg, if we're going to go that route, what's the answer to the first question then, since you've listened to a couple episodes?
Yes, I have. I was recently interviewed for a funeral. The question is, have I ever been on a podcast before? And the answer is yes. Okay. I was originally interviewed on a funeral podcast.
Oh, how exciting that must be.
Yeah, it was at a convention, and it was a very interesting podcast. Yeah, check it out. The Modern Podcast, I believe, is what it, or the Modern Undertaker, I think is what it's called.
So, Luke, we're definitely going to circle back to these types of things. I've done a lot of research on you as well. You know, Blake indicated that he's done his work, but we've chatted a bit. So I've got some good questions for you, but let's just start at the beginning, because you are like a true, heart of Iowa, central Iowa, like your guy right here that has grown up in Des Moines and like done okay. But soccer might have been your sort of like your thing. Maybe basketball, but let's say soccer.
Definitely soccer. Anyone who's watched me play basketball at a competitive level, who played basketball, which is a lot of my friends at college, they're like, yeah, soccer, definitely a soccer guy.
Okay, well, so walk us through it. Talk about Norwalk as like a 5-year-old, like.
Yeah, so I remember back kind of growing up when I'd be with my dad and mom, and we'd be kind of meeting with somebody in town who could weld together steel to make the goals. Like that's feels like forever ago, but that's how kind of undeveloped soccer was when first started. So it was just hitting the scene at the youth level. So a lot of it was just growing up and parents who took a major interest and cared, wanted to give me an outlet to play and have fun. And so they kind of put together the first team in Norwalk, and then from there went and played at Urbandale prior to a lot of the merging that happened.
Is that with the Revolution?
Yeah, we were Urbandale Revolution. It was a real quality team.
So that would have been like the same year the New England Revolution.
Yeah. So the things I remember from my childhood in all the different tournaments was we had a lot of parents who would play the Beatles, So You Want a Revolution, as if that meant anything to us as 11-year-olds. So we'd hear that song, and that stuck with me. It was also around the time when the MLS, and so the Revolution, I think, was, I don't know if they were first or if we were first, but it was kind of when every team was getting named after some like metaphorical like concept, with Galaxy, Revolution,
Mutiny,
Impact. You're just like everything was, now we're all united, and FC and Sporting and those types of things. But it was an interesting time, and it was when there was a lot of individual clubs. So it was, everyone kind of had their own. Each town had their own club, and a lot of it was traveling around Iowa versus having to travel throughout the region to get the games. And that was club. And then I'm fortunate enough that Norwalk around that time was starting to come along as an entire kind of community for soccer, and that turned into a great high school experience with Dustin Kralik as the coach and a lot of teammates who played with in club and in high school. So great experience growing up.
Luke, let's touch base, kind of go back a little bit. about your Revolution days, coaching wise, players wise. I mean, you're talking like Ozzie White, Gary Isles, and
Ben Langwith.
Yeah.
Yes.
So coaches was very consistent. It was Gary Isles, and then Ozzie, as you mentioned, and then Shedsy kind of towards the end. So that was it. There was a couple others who would kind of come in and out, especially in the early years. But really, it was a lot of continuity for the team, which was great. You know, a lot of really good players as well. You mentioned Ben Langwith, Reed Baker, Lance Cunningham, and kind of
you beat me to all those.
We convinced to move from West Des Moines. You know, Ben Keenan. There's a whole slew that. Yeah, really talented players, and it was a lot of fun. And you know, kind of thinking back to it, you know, it was a really special time to be kind of part of that. It was pre kind of single club, so it's kind of what happened was people started navigating to a team as things started progressing. So we, by the end of it, also had people from Cedar Rapids who were traveling to Des Moines to play with us and play in our tournaments. And that's when we started, you know, traveling a little bit broader beyond just the Iowa base.
So for history's sake, Luke, so Blake and I are both, you know, a year or two older than you, more or less. Let's call even 2 years, right? I mean, you're in 86. 86. Yeah.
Yep. You guys are 85, 84?
Fours. We're fours. Yeah.
Fours, yeah.
But so it just seems like around that time, you know, like you said, it was like single club. So like Urbandale was really good at that 86, and like the 84s, Blake, like the Freedom, like that was the team. We did not play for that team.
Yeah, you guys are Iowa United boys.
Yeah. But Iowa United some years was the team, and then like West Des Moines was some years the team, but it was never the club. It was always
absolutely.
There was like a single team. That's a really interesting. Nobody's.
And then it would.
This is what I love about you, Luke. You're just you're incisive.
But you'd also see that it would start to merge. So like Freedom was kind of the first example that I was aware of. So I wasn't, you know, growing up in Norwalk, soccer wasn't a thing until, you know, so I kind of absorbed a lot of the history from the Urbandale West Des Moines rivalry, Johnston, here and there. But what you saw was also the teams started to merge together, and you know, people started. I don't know. It feels like the NBA super teams now, where they recruited their friends or recruited the people on ODP to kind of come play with them in the club season as well.
So Luke, I think it's just interesting to get your input that, you know, you talked about you have a lot of continuity, or you did coaching wise. I think we did as well, where I think nowadays the trend is, hey, you get a coach for 2 years and then the coach passes them off to the next coach. So I'm just interested to kind of get your input and your thoughts on having that continuity with the coaches that know you longer than, hey, 2 years, boom, you're out the door. There's a new coach no matter what. That's kind of the trend right now. So just talk about that a little bit, about how
you've also spent time coaching, and you are like a, you know, like you are a leader on a daily basis.
Yeah,
just to qualify
I think, Yeah. So I did coach in both Urbandale and Norwalk. Urbandale during college and Norwalk again after college. And you know, so this is my perspective. Obviously, there's lots of different ways that can be successful. I just know that when kids go through a lot of change, so the advantage of having coaches that are going to move around is that it's a fresh look to a kid, and it gives them an opportunity to kind of go try again and kind of develop. I was an interesting one because early in my career, I wouldn't have been the most athletic. I was just a really cerebral player. And so I, found my way to being a central defender and communicated a lot, was able to make a regional team, not because I was the most skilled player, but just because I was able to organize people and move them around the field. But then I kind of plateaued athletically until closer to high school. And when got to high school, that's when I really hit my growth spurt and my speed developed. And then suddenly it was a different level of athleticism. The advantage I would have had is a coach would have given me a new look. But the disadvantage I would have had is during that middle time where I wasn't the most athletic, I would have probably been passed over. I wouldn't have had the chance to develop and grow. And so my personal bias is I would rather have fewer people who are more invested in the long term of the players, who have an interest in who they are and how they're wanting to develop and growing with them. Now, I think a lot of the times the logic is that you need to learn new skills or learn new things from new coaches, but I think, what I've observed is the coach naturally develops with the players, and they naturally realize the next phase that those players need to learn. And so it's a mutual growth. And I think there's a lot of advantages to that.
Yeah, I think on that note, Frieberg, that the coaches, you learn who the players are, their personalities, and how to approach them, how to talk to them, how to essentially coach them and teach them. And you have to approach every individual differently. And you go to anytime, we've all been coaches, right? You go take a team and you approach one person one way, you don't have a clue how they are, if they can take it, if they can take a lashing, if they can't. So I echo that point. Absolutely. I would agree.
Blake, I've done it where I've been part of a larger club and I kind of just got put into a team, like a tournament, and I would just go be coaching a team. And I barely knew the players' names, so I'd be asking them what position that they'd be coaching because I really didn't know. And that's to me, that's the disservice. That's where it's not great for the player, because I couldn't be their best coach if I don't really understand. I'm getting 20 minutes of game time action to try and figure out what their best position is or how to best mold the team or tactically do anything to set them up for success. So I'm my bias is the continuity. I do think, the advantage I think we had at Urbandale or at IU United is there still were some coaches, so it's not like you were with the same coach forever. So there was a little bit of a rotation, or you'd still get variety or new thoughts. But it is the challenge of if you have a new coach every 2 years, you're essentially restarting your development to some extent in that, how you building that relationship with the coach.
So let's talk about that then for just a second, because so growing up, club soccer was definitely the emphasis. You probably spent, say like, 8 to 9 months with your club team, and then like 2 or 3 months with your high school team. And Norwalk now is like a kind of a powerhouse high school team. It's become a big high school program. I think that's bled a little over into like the club scene down there. Like they've got their own, maybe it's not their own club, but like they're affiliated with the club, right? The Apex deal. So like super cool. I think Norwalk is isolated enough that it really makes sense to do it that way. But like, talk about that a little bit, because, you'd go just like dominate with Urbandale, right? Like you'd win state, you'd go to regionals, right? Like Blake and I did that in our own respective ways. And we've all been through that, like winning state, go to regionals, get crushed. But then the cool thing that you do is then you go back and you play this high school season, and we're all in different communities, but your community, the Norwalk community, is so like tight knit. And you were, you can tell me this because I didn't do that much research. Like, were you when was the first time that Norwalk won state? Was it when you were there, I assume?
No, Norwalk, first time Norwalk made state.
A rich history.
He's never a high school champion, Ben.
First time Norwalk made state was my senior year.
What? So Norwalk never won state, Frieberg?
No, Norwalk had never made the state tournament until
laid the platform.
He's the pioneer.
So yeah, right. So could you imagine right now? I could not imagine if my senior year was right now and having never made state and just having that be taken away as even an opportunity. It's like, it's, for me, it was I had John Stageman before me. He played at IU United and he kind of set the path. And
I remember that name.
Yeah. So Blake Scott and myself and a couple other players.
Nice.
Yeah. So our group kind of came through, and that was our goal, was to kind of change that trajectory and set kind of show that, hey, we can do this. So I think Norwalk first won state. I honestly, I think it was 4 years after me. I think it would have been, maybe it was 5. I think it would have been Garrett Krall's freshman year would have been when they won. They had a really good group. They made it to state all 4 years for that group, and then I think they won it once, maybe twice. And then recently the group that I coached, which would have been Case and Crawls and Jack Palin, Reed Kallenbach, Andrew Jensen, that group, they won it 3 out of 4 years, which is kind of a more recent history, and that would have been other than that, it's been what Norwalk has consistently been able to do under Dustin Kralik has been able to make state consistently, if not every year, almost every year.
I think it's super cool that you're still connected to that whole group, and like I mean, I think that this is just sort of like a random tangent of just like speaks to your character, because like you're super close to that group, but you're still involved in the Drake soccer group as well.
Yeah, early on, I don't remember when it was. It might have been my 4th grade teacher, actually, Mr. Means. He talked a lot about legacy. Like what's your legacy that you're going to leave, and how do you leave something better? And that's kind of just something that's always stuck with me.
Urbandale girls team, like about your age?
Yeah, that was a team, right? Like, see, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
There was a legend and a legacy.
Yeah, legends and legacy. That was the year older than us. That was the 85 group.
Yeah, John Amato's group.
Yeah. So that was a lot, and that's one of the reasons to for me to stay connected is to just it's to pay it forward. There's people John Stageman who came before me. It's hopefully I come before others, and then they can see to come before the next group.
So bracket, I don't know. I want to get into kind of how we got recruited, because some of my research leads into this a little bit. So do you have anything else kind of on that before we get to the end of his high school career?
The end of it. Okay. No, I was just going to say, I think I want to make sure that we circle back on this after his high school career and his college career and his professional career. I think some of this stuff all kind of bleeds together. So let's go to the Drake Bulldogs section. Go on, Blake.
Yeah. So Luke, I had no clue that this was, and hopefully it's accurate, because I thought you were kind of not a big time recruit, but a good recruit. But I think the line is, quote, you came as a recruited walk-on for the men's soccer team. Is that accurate? Like,
yeah. Yep.
Really?
I walked on at Drake. Yeah. So I was the steal of Coach Holmes's life. Maybe you could put Matt Nickel in that category as a late addition, but
he did go a little further.
He went way further, but it's the question is, what did he do for Coach Holmes? I said I was the Coach Holmes' steal of his life.
Touche. Well played.
You were late in the game, but I didn't realize. I thought you were like. So I don't know. I'm interested now. We played together, but I didn't know. Were you looking to? What were you looking to do your junior senior year, collegiate wise? Were you looking to play soccer? What were you looking to do?
Yeah. So I was soccer was my goal. I didn't get a whole lot of interest. Honestly, I think this is one of the challenges of Norwalk as compared to a large school at the time, 2A school versus 1A school. For Norwalk, you really it was anything I was doing in high school was a little bit discredited. It wasn't quite at the same level, where the focus back then was really heavily focused on what you did in club or what you did in ODP. And so I really didn't get a whole lot of looks. I think when Coach Holmes first saw me, it's a funny story. We were at ODP in DeKalb, Illinois at the ODP camp. It's the long 5-day camp that you're just playing game after game after game. At least back then you'd have 2 games a day. And I remember I went to pass the ball back to our goalie, and it mispassed it, and a forward intercepted it. So I was center defender, and the forward dribbled past the goalie and went to pass it in, and I was able to catch up to the ball. And so I was able to sprint ahead, catch up to the ball, and save it. I'm 100% positive Coach Holmes missed me essentially giving the guy the goal. I think all he saw was me saving the goal, and he's like, that's it. I'm recruiting him. And so that was between my junior and senior, or that was kind of summer after junior year. And so that's when he recruited me. And so I think it would have been going into fall, kind of going into fall of senior years when I committed to Drake, somewhere around there. So I didn't have a great perspective on the recruiting season or the cycle or what that was, but I honestly never even stepped foot on Drake's campus before committing. So I remember having the meeting with Coach Holmes. I had gone to Drake games consistently when they played at Hidden Valley when they played at Drake Stadium, and so I was very familiar with Drake's in the games. I watched JoJo, I watched Duax, I watched kind of that whole group. But for me, I knew that I wanted to play at the highest level I could, and so it was a no-brainer when Coach Holmes called that I was absolutely coming.
Where else? I'm curious now. Where else did you look? Did you visit?
I didn't visit anywhere. I never visited a college campus.
So this is crazy. Like, you wanted to play soccer.
Yeah. I wanted to play soccer, and there's only one option in Iowa. So I had conversations with Gary Laidlaw at Central, and that probably would have been where I would have ended up had I not. But for me, it was I only wanted to play Division I, and it was Drake or nowhere. That was kind of the option.
Do you have like sort of like the homebody thing? Like, you want to be here?
No. My dad coached me all the way through, and my parents were at every single game, and it was one of those things where like I valued that. Super cool. I really didn't go home all that often, but it was one of those things where like I valued that they could come to every game and still be part of that. And so it wasn't necessarily that Drake was
my parents saw me play like a
Des
handful of times in college. Maybe
right.
Times.
And because
like not
probably
that cool. It's pretty sad.
Probably when we went out to come play you guys.
No. You played Yale. Come on now.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
That's a big fuck off right there. Did you guys beat Yale? Hold on. Did you beat Yale?
I have no idea.
I remember.
You played Yale for sure. You played
we
Yale.
We definitely played. We played Yale. I thought we played somebody else out there too. I don't remember who the other was, but it was a short drive. It was at a different place, and it was a short drive. It was all we were promised was that the colors of the leaves would be changing, and none of us cared.
Yeah, that sounds like a Holmes promise right there.
It does, right?
But it just kind of, Luke, I only asked that just because knowing you and obviously your career, which is kind of, I would really like to talk about that quick before, here in the next little section.
Yeah.
But you're a pretty ambitious guy. You're a smart guy. You know what's up. So your point about playing Division I, I totally get that. But were you, if you didn't go to Drake, you go to Central, you could have gone with your career at Drake, you could have gone anywhere you wanted.
Yeah. So
regionally,
I think the hindsight 2020, it's easy to say after the fact, in high school or prior to, I probably wouldn't have been the top recruit off of Revolution. My grades would have made me extremely attractive and kind of my scores and all of those things. But from just a coach just who came and watched our games, I was not the sizzle on the team. I was just the consistent one who was in the back. I always played central defender, didn't do anything flashy, didn't really ever use my speed. It was more just, I was just trying to be in the right position at the right time. It wasn't until high school where I kind of figured out how fast I was relative to everyone else. And that's when I was playing forward. And that was kind of the eye opener for me. There are different opportunities. For me, it wasn't, academics was always a priority. Drake has really good academics. And I've always viewed, from my perspective, Des Moines has a lot and Central Iowa has a lot. And living in a place that I want to enjoy and want to live has been a focus. And, with the whole idea that I can travel the world. If I want to go somewhere, I can go somewhere. But
I like that.
But having that ability to have a quality of life where I've visited friends in LA and Chicago and New York, and it's awful dealing with the traffic. It's awful spending my life waiting to get somewhere or trying to do that. And everyone talks about all the cool things you can do, but once you live there, you can't afford it. It's only the visitors who can afford to do the cool things. So I figure I'll live where I can afford to and then go visit the cool places.
And I think we have a new appreciation for this past week, right? When it's 60 to 70 degrees, when it's been cold or miserable. That we enjoy it more than anybody else. Let's go to San Diego where it's 70 every day. I don't think they have an appreciation for what they actually have because of what we got.
I talked to a lot of customers, and one of some of them are in Orlando, Florida, and every day when they're it's 65 degrees, they're it's not that great here. And I'm are you kidding me? It's awesome. Congratulations. 65 degrees would be great.
So Frieberg, will you touch base? You guys you and Ben kind of dove into a little bit. We played together, but was there a position you did not play other than goalkeeper?
That was the only position I didn't play in college.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. In high school and other areas, I would play goalkeeper for certain times, PK shootouts or those types of things. But in college, that was the only position I didn't play.
Stop. Go back.
Yeah. So for PK shootouts or penalties, every once in a while, I would hop back into goal. It was one where it's kind of as I was coming into my athletic spurt, I realized I could cover a long distance. It was a very unorthodox style of goalkeeping. I think I had watched somebody back then in the MLS. I think MLS went through 2 phases. They did the dribbling was super cool. Shootouts, yeah. Right? Yeah, and so I remember being obsessed with that. But then they went back to traditional, and there was some goalie who would stand horizontal on the line as if he's a sprinter. And I watched this, and I remember seeing this, and I was like, oh, that's kind of smart. Because it really throws the shooter off. Like, do I kick behind them and just they're standing there? Or do I assume they're going to run?
You take a sideways approach?
Stand with your back to one post as if you're going to run to the other. And it really just screwed everyone up. And so then they would either kick it right down the middle or kick it to me, or I'd be able to get to the ball wherever it was. And yeah.
Or occasionally they would just slide.
Oh, they would still score. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's still a penalty kick.
Ben, you got to remember this is 1A soccer at the time. Remember what we talked about earlier? Like, there we go.
See, this is why I didn't get recruited anywhere, Ben.
Exactly.
Bad attitude.
But so like, before we like advance, so you have paved the way for. I mean, who older than you is from Norwalk that played soccer? Like, who were you looking up to as a young man?
I mean, John Stageman would have been the best that Norwalk had prior to that. He had set all the records. He had played he was who I watched. Many of his battles with Nickel or Bourne, Waukee would have been in the same conference as us, so would have gotten to see a lot of that.
What about club-wise?
Club-wise, it would have been Urbandale. I'd have been following Freedom.
Nice.
That's who I would have been watching, 2 years older, and some of our teammates had brothers on the team.
Sure. I just think it's interesting how you have emerged, and it's interesting too because there have really been a ton of like good Norwalk players, like young players. You got Sam Steenhook, you've got all the Crawl brothers, you got this Teeling's cousin Mason Lucas that's coming out. But like I could go through the Norwalk list, and I'm probably being very. You want to hit me up here and like help?
Yeah. I mean, so from the championship team, you have Jack Palin who went on to Wartburg. You had Kyle McGuire who went to Grandview, the Leaper brothers who went to Western Illinois. I mean, so just in that group, you have a really solid. But even separate from that, in your championship teams or the teams that would consistently be competing for the championships, you had players who didn't go on to play college soccer or went on to Iowa State and played intramurals or went on to a small D3. But that's kind of the interesting thing with Norwalk, and that's, you mentioned the community aspect, is you'll have maybe one or two kind of club players who would be stars or who would be kind of top level recruits, but you still have a lot of players who continue to play. So having a full team is really what makes it special, is that it's an entire class that grew up playing together, and then some of them went on to continue playing, the others continued playing club or something like that at a lower level. But when high school kind of rejoins, you now have such a solid group versus trying to meld. I'm assuming the Valleys consistently are melding, club players at every position from different age groups. But then you have different.
I like to think that.
Yeah, you then have different egos that come into the play, and you have different kind of personalities. Whereas at the Norwalk level, you get really the team focus, and this comes down a little bit to the value that we talked about when you kind of have the team that builds over time. You have people who understand role and understand what their job is on that team, and that's, I think, why Norwalk's successful, is because it's the combination of you have a really skilled kind of floor. So everyone has a certain skill level, but then you also have people who play their role really well and understand what they're asked to do. And that all comes together to make a really good team.
Would you consider yourself a role player in college?
I think Drake would have been a lot better if I did during my time.
I'd say no, Ben.
Yeah.
No, and I only say this because I feel like ultimately I was, at least for sections of my career in college, like I was certainly a role player. Like I was not the guy. Like I was a guy. And like, I know y'all, like I know where you guys are playing. Like, and I'm not saying that you weren't the guy, but like where I was really going with this is just like being a part of a team and like trying to figure out where you fit. Like even if you're the leader of the team or you're just like the guy that like sits in there and does the work. Like,
yeah, I think
what's the difference?
If I was to go back and kind of redo my college career, kind of have the wisdom of age and hindsight, my freshman year, I was just excited to play. It was one of those things where you're just fighting for time. And so I very much did fit a role, but it was a very nervous energy role. It wasn't like a build off of confidence. It was just,
sometimes that's the best.
Yeah, it was just survive, right? Like just try to do enough to be able to play. And then sophomore and junior year, it was still trying to prove what I could do, but more from an ego-driven perspective in terms of like, this is what I want to show everyone I'm worth. And then senior year was a lot more focused on what's the best for the team. So senior year, it was, lead the team from the back, help the 2000, the Elite Eight team would have been sophomores my senior year. So Drake made their first state tournament or first NCAA. The first year I was out, second year they made it to the Elite Eight.
Perfect.
And so from my perspective, like that year I was significantly more, playing the role and doing what was best for the team. The sophomore and junior year, absolutely not. There's no way I could say that I was playing a lot of different positions, but it wasn't what was best for the team. It was constantly trying to push to show I could do this or that. A little bit of that was we had a void, losing Matt Nickel at that time. It hurt. It was a noticeable loss losing Adam Ziener. We had two different places. Blake filled the back. I tried to fill the nickel spot. Not really what I was designed for at the college level.
You're fast though.
Yeah, that's a similarity, right? So, what Nickel had though is he just had his ability to hold somebody off and strike under pressure. That was not my skill. My skill, the reason I was successful in high school is because I could outrun people. Once you get to the college level, there's a lot of people who are fast too. And so it's not that differential, and that's where
so that's where the brain came in.
Yeah, and that's where my strength is at the back. It's because you put my speed and being able to predict where somebody's going to be. It's really hard to beat, and that's where if I was to do it all again, focusing more on my career as a central defender or as an outside back, I think it would have made the team overall better. Whether we would have scored or whether we would have had as much success in offense, probably because it would have opened opportunities for other people, but it would have done more to help support Blake in the back, other people who were helping kind of hold the shore and make it so that we didn't have to worry about scoring as much.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was going to ask Blake, do you have a few more questions? Because I want to.
Yeah, I want to. So
okay. Talk about the Drake times with him. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, actually, my question was, I think you filled in. Like I said, I think he's kind of filled that in pretty well. I thought.
Okay, well, so then move on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to talk about. He's kind of a back to our Iowa soccer legend status. I think the Menace kind of plays a role here, where but it also
says his teammate.
But it gets to the Drake aspect as well, because winning the PDL title with the Drake shirt on, and Ben, you talked about the mental aspect of it, or you pointed to your head at least, so our listeners really couldn't hear that. But he I don't know what shooter you were, Luke, but in the PDL final down there in El Paso, makes the winning scores the winning penalty.
Ice cold, Luke Frieberg.
Yeah, I just talk about. I mean, you played with the Menace, and you want to talk about role players. And I'm going on and on, but like role players and being influential. Just talk your kind of experience there, Luke, with the Menace, because
it was a fun, that was a fun season. That was after my freshman year at Drake. So, just again, it was one of those things where just looking to play, looking to get time. I still remember, I don't know if it was 5 a.m. It felt like 5 a.m. practices out in, on university that we'd be doing, and
Friendship Acres.
Yeah, Friendship Acres. All I remember was the metal American Gothic.
I got cut from that team multiple times.
I mean, it's a housing development now, but you would have no clue.
It is.
There.
Every time I take my wife Sarah by there, I'm like, I used to train here. She's like, sure, I know. You tell me every time.
I've never driven through there. Is it good? Does it look nice?
It's developed. There's a lot of nice houses out there. Kudos to all those people. But when we were doing that, everyone was older. It was like I was kind of one of the youngest on the team. I remember Bourne and JoJo, that was my roommates on the road trips. And I just remember it's just this new experience. And so it was a lot of new connections and kind of, it was really a lot of what I loved was hanging out with so many Drake people. It was, if you looked at the team, I think it was 8 or 9 Drake players. So it was just a ton of fun in that regard. I played a little bit of forward, played a little bit of outside mid, sat the bench some here and there, but kind of in the championship game, it was guarding essentially my job. It felt like high school in reverse. I was essentially responsible for trying to shut down the MVP of the league, who had like 30 some goals that season. Then?
It was like, he was quality, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was good. He was really skilled. Played for played for El Paso. Played for the home team where we were. So was essentially shutting him down. We had Grunenbaum behind us, the self-proclaimed Hebrew Hammer. There's one point where I did the exact same thing that got me recruited at Drake. I underpassed it to him, and the guy picked up the ball. Other than that, the guy literally did nothing the entire game. He picked up the ball, and thankfully Andy saved me, saved the day. So that the whole game we're in 100-degree heat. I was, looking back on it, just a complete idiot. I wore a super thick cotton Drake t-shirt underneath my Menace jersey. And my entire logic was
back in the day, Frieberg, real quick. Sorry. That was back in the day where they didn't have we didn't have dry fit.
Dude, I wore a cotton shirt under every jersey I ever wore.
The only time you would have a dry fit material is when you paid for the premium price of a jersey. So it would have been me wearing a jersey under a jersey.
Dude, there was one time, seriously, this serious conversation. We made the NCAA tournament. We won our first game. We got dry fit shirts for the second game. It was like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, we're like, wait, really? But normally it was just a cotton shirt for sure.
Yeah. So I was wearing just a plain Drake t-shirt, old logo and everything, and as a central defender, it was on the logic that if I score a goal, I'm gonna take my shirt off and celebrate.
Fuck yeah.
And so we go the entire game, go to overtime, nothing. We go to penalties, and Casey Mann, who is the coach, nominated the 5, and I don't remember who was the 5th kicker. He played at Bradley. He kicks it. It goes off the.
Was it?
Yeah. Yep.
Was it
who?
Cody Cother?
Yep. So he kicks it. It goes off the crossbar. For sure lands in, and then bounces out. But they say no, it didn't go in. It came down and hit straight on the line. So we go to extra kicks, and we are kicking first. So Corey Farabi gets nominated as the 6th kicker, and
Drake boy.
Yeah, Drake teammate. He has no glory potential. The only thing he can be is the heel. He either keeps the game going or he loses it for us. There is no benefit to his position. So he kicks it, makes it. After 6 kickers, you just see that this goalie is just diving like a madman, just diving everywhere. prior to kick, he has no interest in stopping anything. And so, I'm the 7th kicker, and thankfully it reverses. So they kick first and Andy saves it. So then it's like literally it's a win-win for me.
The ABBA?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a win. It's a win-win for me.
This is like, this is
old school.
Early times on the ABBA.
That's right.
It used to be ABA,
Yeah. So it's great. So I'm literally, the only thing I can do is either extend the game if I miss it, no big deal, or I make it. And when I make it, I just turn to the camera and take my shirt off, and I point to the Drake logo, which was beautiful because it got me out of some sprints when we got back to campus for spring season or for fall season.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a good experience. But Menace for me was a lot of fun. Shortly after that summer, so that would have been, I would have gone from high school season to a not a PDL but a summer league team for the Menace juniors, kind of traveling around prior to college, doing a bunch of camps. Yeah, the U20s, and then I would have went straight into college, and then we, Blake and I, we would skip some workouts in the spring, but other than that, we would be very consistent, and we'd have spring workouts. Then I went into the Menace season, and then went right back into Drake season sophomore year, and that's when I tore my hamstrings. So kind of from there on, I just realized like that's too much soccer to put on a body, and so it slowed down my Menace from that experience on, because my body couldn't handle 365 of high caliber soccer. And so, really wanted to put my priority on Drake, so that way I could move from a walk-on to a scholarship athlete.
Blake?
No, I didn't realize, like I said, yeah, he was always the last guy, or one of the later guys, like, oh, this local guy, right? I mean, there's a lot of local guys, like, who's this, oh, you heard about Luke Frieberg, why is he all of a sudden now kind of in the conversation? So I'm glad I can finally understand and learn what the whole story is.
I thought you were gonna call him out and be like, "Oh, I just found out why you like weren't as fit as the rest of the guys. Got weak hamstrings."
Oh no, he was the fittest one. That's the problem, Brad.
Yeah, no, I was
fitness test, and we would all like.
Oh, is that true?
Oh, yeah,
listen to this though. We were having a little bit of a disconnect here.
Oh yeah, me and Frieberg, I don't get along with him about the whole fitness test deal, because he would crush it and I never passed, and then I was the one that
never passed.
Oh, no chance.
I remember there was one time. I think it was freshman year in the spring season. I think I did the fitness test, and I think I like lapped an entire group. Like it was we're doing 300s, which is like 25 sprint. Like you're doing 25 sprint back and forth till you get to 300 yards.
Luke, will you explain, because Ben doesn't understand it, but it's a 300-yard shuttle, Ben.
I know what it is.
Yeah, so it's a 300-yard shuttle at 25-yard increments. So you're just down, back, and you have to do it. I think, Blake, remind me, it's like 55 seconds or something like that.
60 seconds. Well, you do 3 of them. You get a minute break, but the first one has to be.
Blake's done the math before, and he couldn't do it.
I remember.
It was too hard.
It is awful.
It still gives me nightmares.
It was so
one had to be
so bad.
2 or 3 seconds faster than the second, and then the second had to be 2 or 3 seconds faster. So you had to do it something like 55, 57, 59, or something like that. And I would never came in under a minute in the first time.
I want to talk so much smack right now. I want to just be like, I never didn't pass my fitness test, which is true.
So there's one time you'd love this.
That sounds so hard.
You'd love this, Ben. There was one practice we had, and Blake was the most seniored player who was practicing, and we go to do something happened, and Coach Keppen got mad at us and made us do full field sprints, and we had to do the full field sprints in under 11 seconds or something. Everyone had to finish, and obviously we didn't. No one, like, this is the end of practice. No one's finishing a full field. Yeah, there's like 4 people on the team who could finish it in under 11 seconds after the end of practice. And so we're doing this, and his response, because we didn't do it, is do it again. And so we just keep doing it again until we get it. And finally Blake's like, we're not gonna finish. Like, this is never gonna happen. So we go to stretch, and Coach Keppen called somebody in who wasn't practicing to stretch us. And Blake goes, F that crap. And so we had to get back on the line to run again.
Blake, what did you actually say? Did you say F that S?
I mean, it was.
Oh yeah. Oh, you said F that S. This is legendary. And Coach Kepin goes, "What'd you say?" And at first he's like, "Do I say it again?" And then he goes, "Yeah."
Wait, stop. You said that, and Coach Kevin said, "What did you say?" And you said, "Yeah, Blake."
Oh, he reiterated it. He said it again louder. So we got back on the line.
Ben,
we ran again.
Ran. Yeah. We got back on the line. Like,
we by the end of this we did sprints. We did about 1.5 miles of sprints.
Like, so I think these are the kind of the cool stories when people are like, "Oh, do I want to play soccer? Do I want to like be part of the team?" Like cool story. I mean, this was 2009, so this is 10-ish years ago, right?
It's like it was yesterday. Old.
And we talk about we talk about these things, or that, and like it brings a laugh, and like I remember it just as well as you.
Might as well have been yesterday.
Yeah, like
it's a legendary.
The cool
dude, I went to a concert with Kepin though, and like he's like so mellow. It's not a big deal.
He's so funny, but it was like one of these things where we're in the middle of practice and everyone was like, "Yeah, I'll run for that." That was a very justified. Yeah, we agree with you, Blake. We'll run.
Okay, so 84 birth year, Blake. Do you remember Kepin making us run at Bell Center when Adam Williams told him to shove it?
Well, yeah.
So Frieberg, we're like it's same situation, and Williams just tells him to shove it. Like, nope. And he just goes, "Everybody else on the line, run!" And he just yells at Williams for like.
While you guys are running in the background.
Yes, like it's just like so loud.
So, all right, Luke, do you have anything else on that?
No. I mean that the Menace was, Menace into Drake. It was really, to me, it was all about priorities. Drake was my priority.
Ben, do you have anything else on that?
No, Captain, I love you. Gotta, yeah, okay.
So Luke, give us, you're 33 plus now. You got a good job. You got some big news ahead of you. Do you want to break it on our podcast? Or
we technically broke it on Instagram a few weeks ago, but yeah, my wife and I are expecting.
All of that, Ben. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right. That's all right. I mean, I'm sure you follow and like every post, right?
We try to, but
is it the order that's the problem, or the subscription?
Both.
Yeah. Our paid subscription isn't going very well.
No.
Yeah. Give the listeners, because there's going to be a ton. The city of Norwalk and Cumming, the horse. We didn't really touch on this, but he probably is the only guy that has a horse, like grew up with horses, that has played soccer on the level he has.
Wait, you grew up with horses?
Yeah, so I grew up in Norwalk, just south of town, and my grandfather, he had
Ben. Real quick, I'll interrupt him. The best pool I've ever been to.
Yeah, it was pretty good, and the best, like really good sunsets, pretty cool. Good experience, but yeah, it was a horse farm. So my grandfather, he was a Hall of Fame horse breeder, and raised American saddlebreds, had about 150 when I was growing up. So there was just horses everywhere. And, naturally everyone's like, "Oh man, they're so jealous." Especially like you talk to anyone who had a young girl and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that must have been the dream." And I was like, no, horses are terrifying. They're big and they're scary. It's like, they're great to look at, but they are terrifying animals.
I agree. Blake, you're going to have some cows on your property. Horses in the mix?
No. Horses are, what do they call them? They call them
terrifying, I think is what Luke said.
Fence stretchers and hay burners.
They do eat a lot of hay.
Direct fence, man.
They do that as well.
Frieberg, Severs is going to have...
He's got a farm going.
I know. He's going to have cows out there, and like... he's practically got a dog and he's got multiple cats. It's crazy.
Well, you got to keep the barns clean.
Fair enough. So I need to know this. You've got your northern Missouri home where you're going to do the lake thing. You just mentioned you're doing a renovation on your own home. How do you keep any sort of sanity? It's so hard to renovate a property.
Yeah. So
are you that good at renovating things?
No, absolutely not.
Blake said he did electrical work last week, and I don't think that's safe.
Thankfully, my father-in-law is a master electrician with Baker Electric, so.
Thanks for the call, Luke. Appreciate it.
That one is taken care of for me.
I could have used him for about 2 hours.
Yeah, it's nice. No, I'm not expert at renovation by any means.
So give us just a quick rundown on your professional life, because I think it's really cool. You've used your soccer in a really neat way to leverage yourself into a very respected leader in the business community. So just give us a short.
So my parents, when I was growing up, they both started companies. That was kind of what they did. They were entrepreneurs, and they started a technology company. And my brother was a computer programmer, and so just growing up around them, I just learned a lot about both business and computer science. And I'm not formally trained in it, but I lead a company that what we do is we help funeral homes digitize their offerings so they can connect to customers without needing to meet face to face. It's been invaluable for them right now, as they can't meet face to face through government regulations or restrictions. So with that, it's as you can imagine with any type of kind of, you're building something and you're kind of taking something from an imagination and trying to figure out as a team how to make that a reality. It's pretty time consuming and can kind of be stressful. And I always heard the joke that what race car drivers would do to relax is that they would golf, and what golfers would do to relax was they would fish, and what fishers would do to relax is they'd take a nap. Everyone's looking for something that's a little bit less stressful. So for me, home renovation or kind of construction projects, when I'm at work, I don't program, so I don't actually get to build anything. I just kind of imagine it and work with the team in terms of what it is, and we talk about it and strategize around it, but I don't get to create anything. So for me, the renovations are my release. That's my golf. It's my time to relax and just think on something that I get to control 100% of. So no, I'm not a great renovator or great at any of those things, but thankfully YouTube and online courses, you can figure out a lot. And so it's just trying to solve a problem and figure out what to do. And when you're willing to buy the worst house, you can usually get it for pretty cheap. So
that's been
our strategy.
You're better than me for sure, but I don't know, Blake, okay, so if we're going to rank renovators in this little group, is Luke first or is Blake first? I want to know, because I'm last.
Well, I don't know. Luke, what kind of work are you doing?
So
I know you're not doing electrical.
No, I'm not. No, you're definitely winning that category. I'm just too scared.
Luke's doing flooring though.
Plumbing. A lot of hardwood floors. Plumbing with PEX is kind of like cheating. It's a little bit like connecting straws together.
I've been doing landscaping.
Tile is probably what I'm best at. So laying tile or backsplash or those types of things.
Is that why you've lost all your hair, just for all these stressful projects that you're?
Oh my goodness! I look back on life and I'm like, man, where did it go? Somebody once I was like, what do you dream about? And I'm like, that I have a head full of hair. That's my dream.
Blake, you're gonna post a picture of Frieberg with hair.
Yeah, you should. If you pull a picture from high school and you pull a picture now and you put those next to each other, no one's gonna believe it. Everyone's gonna be like, "Gosh, that guy's like 50 years old."
Yeah. Blake, you also have to tell us what you can do.
Yeah.
Are you gonna tell us?
What can I do?
Yeah.
I'm not a big tile guy or a floor guy.
Okay. So
you're a framer and general construction, get things functioning.
Is he that?
I'll fit. I'll come in second, happily, and won't fight for the title.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth fighting for.
All right. Well, Basically, I've been teeing Blake up and it hasn't worked, but.
Oh, I missed something, I guess.
No, I was just hoping you would like explain how good you are, and then I could just like.
Yeah. What is it? Record. So have you renovated your house? Like.
I paid guys to renovate it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Blake was bragging to me the other day about his electrical.
The electrical's legit.
I did all. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't tell you they were like I've seen sparks and whatnot. But I also have learned you just shut the main breaker off. And,
it's a very fast way to be safe.
Yeah.
A lot of flashlights and then turn the breaker off.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all adult life.
All the outlets, all the switches, and only once I saw a shock and a spark.
That's good.
So, and I'm here talking to you boys. So yeah, I'll come in second.
All right, take it, Frieberg. You have been super generous with your time. Thank you. We're just rambling at you now and trying to get you to tell us about your job, which is way more important than talking to us, I assume.
It's not that interesting. It's hopefully you don't need the services. That's really the goal.
That's well, we're gonna eventually.
So everyone does. It's death and taxes. Everyone eventually needs it, but hopefully you guys have a long time before you think about it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna put some.
Man. Frieberg, appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for having me. Always great to connect with you guys. Can't wait till we get to go back out on the pitch and play again.
Let's do it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Siebes. That was a fun little chat. Had to double up on the old Zoom, so it must have been good, right?
I think so. You know, we always get to these points where you dive into conversations and the conversations go different directions. But I don't know. I hope our listeners will enjoy it. And yeah.
Well, like you said, Frieberg ticks a lot of boxes. He's he's an athlete. He's a scholar. He's a gentleman. He's got all these things going for him. I really look forward to seeing what he does with his life. And, you know, we teased him a little bit about having a young one on the way, but I can only imagine that guy's going to be a decent little soccer player.
Yeah, I can just picture.
Can you see Frieberg on the sideline?
Yeah. I mean, his dad Dan would just. I can see it's lineage. At the end of the day, it's lineage, and we always like give each other a hard time.
Does Dan have hair?
No.
Stands to reason.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, I thought it was a good chat. And like I said, I hope our listeners appreciate it. And, he hasn't been coaching for a little while now. So, but again, he is the pioneer of Norwalk soccer.
Yeah, I would say he and Mr. Dustin Kralik are partners in crime for sure. I'm really curious to sort of see how he evolves in the soccer community over the years, for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, big thanks to Luke.
Definitely. Blake, you want to take us out with some social media shouts?
Yeah. I appreciate you giving me that cue, Ben. Nonverbal and verbal. So on Facebook, we are at Kick It Forward IA. On Twitter, we are at kick_forward. On Instagram, we're at kick.it.forward. And then, there's two things. Actually, YouTube channel, I still am trying to figure that out. You just have to go to YouTube and search Kick It Forward, and they'll pop up. If you have any insight there, Ben. But then finally, TikTok, our one video still is our
Has it gone viral yet?
No, it hasn't. I thought it was the best.
Let's keep it that way.
But we are there on TikTok as well at kick.it.forward. And we are working on some collaborations on that. So stay tuned.
I love it, Sieves. Way to muscle through.
A new website coming.
Yeah.
and within, I think we can. Is it safe to announce within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we will have some big news for all the people that have listened this whole time.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate you shouting out the website. The website's gonna look real nice. It's gonna look real nice. Let's go kick it forward. Thanks for joining us tonight. Stay safe, everybody.